Hello and welcome to another edition of the RT20 podcast. I'm Steve Reynolds. Today it's the first of two parts of a talk with Pete Donnelly of the Figs. This is an old instrumental from 1987 from their album Rejects called Barely There #1. And it was a very luxurious song that the alternate version that's on the same record Pete sings on. If you've known me for the past 16, 17 years, you know I'm a huge Figs fan, and to finally have Pete in for a podcast is just really, really awesome. So this podcast is going to cover Pete's solo record, NRBQ, Soul Asylum, the Figs, records that he likes. We go all over the place. And in this first part, you're going to hear us talk about Tom Ardolino from NRBQ, who just passed away over the weekend. And you can tell in Pete's talking about Tom how much he loves him. So we'll send this podcast out in Tom's memory. And we'll start off with a song that is the first single from Pete's solo album, When You Come Home. This song is called Can't Talk At All on the RT20 podcast.
Talk it all. I can't talk it all. We pay the rent. It's easy living. Never have to worry like I used to. Back when I was lonely, reeling, always had a question in my head. You appeared instead. I can't believe what you say to me. I can't believe it. No, no, no. I can't talk it all. No, I can't talk it all. Oh no, I can't talk it all. No, 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 I can't talk it all. It's the sound of a river rolling me over, bringing me down just beyond the water's edge. You made was nearly everything I'm living for, sure as the sky. Your words, they're lighting everything up before my eyes. My face, my soul, my heart has lost control. I can't believe what you're saying to me. I can't believe it. No, no, no. I can't talk it all. No, I can't talk it all. Oh no, I can't talk it all. No, 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 I can't talk it all. Give it to me, baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's exactly where I'm going to come in.
Yeah.
You go and give it to me, baby.
Give it to me, baby.
So, welcome to the RT20 podcast, Pete Donnelly.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm so great. Thanks for having me, Steve.
It's good to see you.
Such a treat.
We're here. It's the day after Christmas that we're recording this.
I got quite the Christmas coma going.
Yeah, and we discovered the espresso machine here.
It works.
It actually works and cranks out espresso.
It's got a good froth on it.
Good kick to it. I want to have Pete in to talk about the brand new solo record. What was the official date? Was there an official date?
Well, it was just me putting it out. So officially, I put it out December 15th, but I wrote 2012 on the CD, so it's officially out this year. When you put things out in December, it's best to just say it comes out the next year, because then it's not old immediately. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now I feel bad because I actually included it on my top 20 of 2011.
Hey.
So
Well, you could do it next year, too.
I could. Well, actually, I want to just read from this because what I wrote. This is what I wrote about it. So you haven't read this yet. So I wanted to read. So Pete Donnelly is a singer bassist in the Figs. He's also been serving as the bass player for the new version of NRBQ that Terry Adams has been playing with for a couple of years. And Donnelly has spent some time on the road and in the studio with Soul Asylum. Oh, and his resume includes doing production and playing work for a lot of Philadelphia area bands. All these facts lead me to one question, which will be the very first question. How in the hell do you have time to make a solo record at this point in your busy life?
Well, it was 2 years in the making.
2 years?
Yeah. When I moved to New York, a couple years ago, Henry Hirsch had someone that I started working with in New York, and he built a studio up in Hudson, and he said, just get up here, and I want you working in my room. And so he gave me a great rate for a couple weeks, and I was like, I can't not do this. You know, such a great studio. This place is amazing.
Yeah.
So I started looking for friends who would want to record it. And then after a little bit, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to cut my own stuff. I called a couple friends. I said, let's go record stuff. And it was just like, hey, I'm starting something. I'm going to put out a record. It was really just an indulgence to start. I really didn't think I was making a record, you know?
So these are songs, that, at least the initial songs for this record, just stuff that you had that you were like looking for a home for?
Exactly. You know, like with the Figs, like all of us just write a lot of songs and we come to the table and there's certain songs that make sense, and I'm sure there's plenty of songs that we've overlooked of each other's, Mike and I, and Pete too, that, you know, are good songs and they should have a home. So I just had a bunch of songs and I found people that, you know, they sounded good with, I guess.
Do you remember, what was the first thing you recorded for this record? Do you remember?
Well, actually, the first thing I did, I couldn't get anyone to come the first day, so I called Tommy Ardolino from NRBQ. And it was a lifelong dream, you know, to play with guys in NRBQ.
Yeah.
And then so it's weird that, we'll talk about it later, but
Yeah.
I'm playing in NRBQ. But so I called Tommy, and I said, Tommy, would you cut some stuff with me? And he said, yeah, but I don't have a car, just come get me. So I drove up to Massachusetts and got him, and we came back, and it was just me and Tommy, and I'm engineering, playing, and showing him the songs all at the same time. So it was kind of maddening.
Wow.
My first day in a new studio, totally amazing, you know, full desk and incredible place. And, you know, I'm just sweating because I'm playing with Tommy. And we cut, you know, maybe 4 or 5 songs. It was really special. And the first thing we cut was Satisfied, which is actually on the NRBQ record, and we recut it because I was playing it with those guys, and Terry was like, man, I like this song. Can we put it on the record? But when I brought him the track, the engineering was really bad because it was my first thing, and I wasn't, you know, wherever you start is never a good place.
Yeah.
So technically it was flawed. So eventually maybe I'll release that outtake of my record, which is Satisfied,
Right.
you know, which I cut with Tommy, which is pretty much unbeatable as performance-wise with Tommy on drums. But then we cut on When You Come Home, which ended up being the title track for the record. And his playing is phenomenal. No one can really play like that anymore. That real Ringo swing kind of thing.
And he and I, it was funny when you sent me the digital thing, and I was like, Tommy's piano.
Oh yeah.
So is just him. It's like 50-second instrumental track on the record. Is it just like playing in the studio that day?
I was down in the control room and I heard him sit down at the piano, and I just reached over and I hit record, you know, instantly. There's no mics on the piano. That's just mics in the room. It's a church, so the sound is pretty wild, you know. And he played this incredibly. I had no idea he could play like that.
You know, it's very intense.
Yeah.
It's like, who's the Mac the Knife guy? You know,
Bobby
Kurt
Darin.
Vile. Oh, okay,
Kurt,
yeah.
Kurt,
just
right.
like, you know, this sort of strange, demonic sounding old world music kind of, and then all of a sudden he just gets up and starts walking away and like humming to himself, and I was like, this is just a beautiful interlude. I have to use it.
Yeah.
And there's a track on the NRBQ record, Red's Piano, which is sort of a tribute to Piano Red. And so I just kind of took that theme and ran with it. Since Tommy had played, I was like, Tommy's piano, you know?
Why not?
But my friend called me and he's like, man, I didn't know Tommy Stinson could play piano like that.
Totally different Tommy.
Totally different Tommy. Yeah.
Completely different great band. But different Tommy. The lineup of different people on this record, it's like all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's probably why it's part of 2 years to get it done.
Well, partly. It started as like a really tight unit, 3-4 guys for the most part, and I cut almost all the material, barring a couple songs, and sat on it, worked on it, and as I was working with other people, I just realized that I could use them for needs that I had in order to finish the record. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then maybe I'm being opportunistic, but I didn't want to use anybody unless it made sense, unless I wasn't just using Dave because he's Dave. I mean,
right.
Well, Dave said to me, he's like,
Dave Pirner.
Dave Pirner, sorry, yeah.
From Soul Asylum.
He's like, what am I doing on the record, Pete? You know, and I was like, you want to do something? Man, hell yeah, you know. I thought about a song, and it was like that song, The Keeping, is kind of a moody, fits his personality, you know, and mostly what he did on that is guitar. He sang too, but his guitar playing on it is great.
I could tell that it's his guitar playing, even though like, when I think of Soul Asylum, I think of Dan's, like, you know, like
totally
his guitar, but Dave has his own sort of guitar style as well.
He does, for sure.
Well, you know what? I was going to get to playing that song later, but actually we'll play that song right now.
Okay, great.
So from When You Come Home, this is a song called The Keeping on the RT20 podcast.
Bells sound when there's no one there to ring down. This field's burning, but they won't stay down.
That is The Keeping, featuring vocals and guitar from Dave Pirner on the RT20 podcast. I'm here with Pete Donnelly. We're talking about just a bunch of stuff that he's got going on.
I know, I'm all over the place
all
here.
over the place.
You ask me a question, and it's like a circuitous route
Yes.
to a non-answer.
Yes, you know what? That's great.
Yeah.
Those are the perfect kind of interviews where it just goes around and around. We're talking about Pete's solo record, which is out now or out in 2012, depending on how you
Hey, man.
how you look.
Time is questionable.
So, yeah, it's, one thing about this record, the first time I listened to it is I thought it seems like it takes, I mean, it's obviously you, but it also takes parts from like people you've been playing. I mean, there's a couple songs I'm like, you can see you playing with an RBQ sort of has an impact.
Sure.
A couple, like Breakthrough Silence sort of seems a little Soul Asylum-esque at points. And then obviously the Figs. And so are these just all the three different sides of your personality coming through?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's all me, and I was worried that there was a over eclecticness to the record. I know what you're saying. Like I've stolen things from everybody I play with.
No, I wasn't saying steal.
Yeah, no, I'm just blatant. I'm waiting for Mike Gent to recognize that on the last song, I blatantly ripped off a song of his from like 1989.
He probably will.
Oh, he will.
Yeah. You'll never hear the end of it, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's the wonderful thing about music, and I always say this: as soon as you take from someone else, it kind of becomes your own. And I feel like that's your right. It's your purpose. If you have a voice, it becomes your own when you take it and recycle it. But yeah, I mean, NRBQ has always been a part of me, always. And I think playing with Tommy, obviously, that song has more of a swing feel. And the drummer I'm playing with, Fred, is an older guy. He really understands older music, more from that era. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know why I felt the need to cram it all in there. It was just, like I said, it started as an indulgence, and I just went for it. But it is all inclusive with all the things I'm doing.
Yeah. Now, lyrically, some of these songs seem like they're just kind of very story-esque, but some like 22nd Street to me, I mean, like, it sounds like an actual story of going to a bakery.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is that actually a story that you went to the bakery?
Well, a lot of them are just fantasies.
Yeah.
I imagine when I was living in New York, if I was a single guy and I like, a bakery is like a real special place for me. It's one of my favorite things in New York are the bakeries. It's like I want a reason to go to the bakery because it makes me feel like comforted, held, loved. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what if there was a girl there that equaled that feeling?
Right.
And I was desperate for her, and I knew there was this one bakery that I just died for, and she, you know what I mean? It was just like I can't say I thought of any of that while I was writing it, but that's sort of what happened. It's like a fantasy.
Most of these, is that kind of the way you approach lyrics generally?
I'll usually let it go. I won't overthink it while it's happening. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you have to come back and see what's there and then try to craft it so that it makes sense. But a lot of times it's a stream of consciousness, like I'm not really thinking about it. I'm not starting with a concept.
So there's no songs where you've like the lyrics, it's always the music first.
No, it usually starts together. I have a lyrical idea as I'm playing a few things. Like say I'm playing a couple chords and I'm thinking of a melody and I just start singing some words. And I just see where those words go. And a lot of times I'll end up elaborating on like a basic concept that comes out. In some of the songs, the words are written first. Say, When You Come Home. Mm-hmm. That was just like a middle of the night. I wrote 10 stanzas just about something obvious, and that song is very obvious. And then, a week later, I saw lyrics and I was just playing guitar. And I was like, oh, that's a total throwaway song. I never thought of it again. But then when I played it with people, it really worked. And I was like, I like this. I'm gonna use it. And it ended up being like the most personal track. And it just, I don't know, it seemed to sum up the personal nature of the record, which there is a lot of very directly personal things, but one wouldn't know which is the fantasy and which is personal, and I usually do that intentionally, because it does sound so personal, but a lot of it is completely made up.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm assuming Saratoga, I mean, obviously you're from Saratoga, which for those who don't know, that's where the Figs started in Saratoga, and pretty much, I almost every at least twice a year, usually go back and play.
Yeah.
So that song, is that sort of...
Well... ironically, that song is completely fantasy.
Okay.
I mean, it's not because it just... I always thought Saratoga was a great word.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, it's absolutely a great word.
I just was like, it's easy to sing. I like the sound of it. And I just started one day. I'm going back to Saratoga. It was like, oh, wow, that sounds like a song. And so it's a song written certainly based on a place I have definitely been. But it's not specifically me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, no, I never went back to Saratoga to regroup.
Right.
But I probably needed to.
Right. or you probably know somebody who probably needed to.
Yeah, exactly. And not that Saratoga would do that. It just was it was like the mythical place to regroup. And I was like, I know it's where I'm from. It'll be fun. It'll create something for people to talk about.
All right. Well, let's play those two songs back to back so people can sort of get the personal and the not so personal fantasy parts of this record. Here's the title track to When You Come Home on the RT20 podcast.
When you come home, I get a rise. It's like the time that I first saw you. The day was rough, not to complain. I know the world, it can turn against you. When you come home, I can't define this love I find right there inside me. Oh yeah, oh yeah. We sometimes roam inside our dome. We're looking for an old reminder before our kiss, the exchange of gifts. There was a game, and it was grander. There was a hope, and it was wide. Now ties that bind and make us stronger. Oh yeah. When you come home, I get a rise. It's like the time that I first saw you. I have a greeting for this good evening. I'll take the meter, turn out the lights. When you come home, I get a rise. It's like the time that I first saw you. I have a greeting for this good evening. I'll take the meter, turn out the lights. When you come home, I get a rise. It's like the time that I first saw you. I have a greeting for this good evening. I'll take the meter, turn out the lights. When you come home. I'm going back to Saratoga. Not like I'll be gone for good. I need a change up from the routine. I don't expect to be understood. I'm satisfied any number of non-essential things. Now I've got to save what lingers, for it's gone, 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 gone. thing. It's not like I've been the least offender. Most of the darkness was within. I'm satisfied any number of non-essential things. Now I've got to save what lingers, for it's gone, gone, gone.
That's Saratoga from Pete Donnelly's When You Come Home on the RT20 podcast. I'm here with Pete Donnelly. We're talking about his solo record now. We'll be moving on to many other topics in a little bit because I made usually when I do these podcasts, I just sort of just wing it.
Sure.
But I was like, wow, there's a lot to talk about. I'm actually going to take notes.
Nice.
So I actually wrote a couple notes today.
Cool.
My brain has started working. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I am.
So this record sort of began as a lark. When did you get to the point where you're like, wow, I'm really going to actually put something out? And is it fucking scary to do that? Because you did one solo thing, which was a cassette, 11 years ago, which is like demos and stuff like that. So putting your name up front on a record.
Yeah, it is scary. I can't say exactly when. As I listened to what I had, I was like, this is a really cool record. I'm just going to follow through blindly and then deal with it. That was sort of my attitude. And, I've been sort of scheming with my wife, Charlotte, for a while about just running better business and thinking about what I'm doing as a producer and an artist. And I came to the conclusion that I feel like putting out my own record is like a great, I hate to say business card, but it's me as a writer, it's me as a producer, and it's a great place for people to recognize what I'm capable of,
Because, I remember looking up your credits at one point. I mean, it's a fucking, if I tried to print it out, it would take a few pages just because so much production and engineering and stuff that you've done, over the past probably like 12, 13 years, It's a lot of stuff.
I know. A lot of, I always say this as well, that, in order to survive, I've had to do a lot of things. Yeah. Sessions, engineering, producing, playing in bands, whatever. There aren't that many great successes on that list, but there's some great stuff, Graham Parker, and then, bands from Philly, Amos Lee, and Carsey Blant, and Capitol Years. There's some really great stuff. I just felt like I needed something that really defined me as myself. And whenever I do that, whenever I do that, what is that? I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
But
when you do this, which would be right now, doing this.
Yeah. I don't know. Everything I do, I bring to the rest of the projects I do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I've never felt like bands function the best when they're just nuclear bands, where people don't do other things. It's like, as I've played in other bands, when it started with the Candy Butchers and NRBQ, Soul Asylum, it's like, all the things I learn, I bring to every project I do, and I feel like it just makes it stronger. And I don't know, you gain wisdom with everything that you do. The record was a real strange thing, but I got to this point where I was just like, I have to take it home. I have to get it done, finish it, and just think small, thinking very regionally with the record. Philly, New York, maybe. I'm not really thinking as like a big, I'm launching a band. It's like kind of way too daunting to think that way. I already do that, with the Figs.
Exactly,
And Philly was never a great home for the Figs, and I want to change that. I want to figure out how. So if I have something to really focus on, a record, doing this residency, 6 weeks in Philly, and I don't know, maybe I can turn things around. Because I've always been an outsider in that town, even though I've lived there for 12 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you've lived there for such a long time, and you've worked with so many different bands. Like, why do you feel like an outsider in a place that you've lived in a quarter of your adult life?
Yeah. Partly, I'm always away. And, you know, I have a family.
Yeah.
I'm a really busy guy. And I'm not like a regular scene guy. Which is half good, because people think there's this mystery to you that, oh, you're up to so many things, you know?
The mystery of Pete Donnelly.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well... but there's value to being seen as part of a scene. And the Figs were never that. You know, growing up in Saratoga, there wasn't really a scene.
Right.
And we never really embraced that, and maybe to our detriment. But that won't necessarily make you, but I do feel like there's value in supporting a scene that you're part of. You know, being present, and the Figs occasionally passing through. We never really infiltrated something. And, you know, it's about getting on the right bills, because you need to play to people in order to create an audience. And for some reason in New York, the Figs were signed, and we had a lot of push in New York back in the 90s. So we were able to develop a real solid following that wasn't friends, or it wasn't part of a scene that we harbored ourselves. But, you know, that's necessary for artists a lot. You have to do the work yourself. I mean, the Figs were lucky. Yeah. We had a lot of that ground covered early on.
Right. Well, I want to play one more song on it, and I have to say, which I don't know if I've ever said this to you in the many times we've spoken, but I'm a sucker for the Donnelly ballad. I don't know what, like something about like the ballads that you do, like something really speaks to me. And Faraway Angel on here, like that song, like, you know, it's my favorite song on this record. So, which again, apparently the Donnelly ballad thing strikes again.
Yeah.
So, what is it about slowing down?
I've always had that side to me. I think in the Figs you don't see a lot of it because that stuff doesn't translate as well live.
Yeah.
And I think on Figs records there's a number of Donnelly ballads in there. Yeah. I'm the one holding up the more sensitive side. But, you know, Jen nails that stuff too. Yeah. You know, One Man Fiasco. I'm not necessarily a ballad, but Mike, you know, when he nails it, it's the best. I definitely have that side to me. I'm a much more, you know, I don't know. I just carry that emotional torch. Yeah. And that song was one of those songs that I really didn't take part in writing. I don't know where it came from or why it happened. It was absolutely a stream of consciousness. It was just all written, and it's live in the studio. Wow. It's I brought these two women from New York, Irina Yalkowski and Christiana Key, who are sort of like hip New Yorkers, and I asked them to come and play with me for a few sessions in the making of this record. And Henry played piano, Irina played slide guitar, and Christiana played violin, and I'm playing guitar and singing, and that's what you hear. I went back and overdubbed all the crazy stuff at the end to make a dramatic thing, but it just worked, you know? It was like a really emotional and moody thing. It's my daughter's favorite song. Huh. Well, and she's a teenager.
Well, it's something, you know, something we have in common, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so here from When You Come Home, this is Faraway Angel on the RT20 podcast.
I lost out on a bet, there wasn't no one instead. The place reeked of the dead, creative defense. I stepped out of the light, I had nothing but sight. I wanted darkness tonight, as lonely as it gets. Mercy carried through, the worst never was true. I stumbled out there to try every time. The lucky number was 5. I woke up and I cried. I rubbed the silt from my eyes, but still I remember. Thanks for the courage. I promise not to be blind. A faraway angel. inside, always inside. If you're gonna believe it, don't get seasick, spinning so freely, I can't stop the ceiling. It's really contagious, I just wanna take it. Everybody's saying I'm just gonna break it. Thanks for the courage, I promise not to be blind. A faraway angel, always inside, always inside, always inside.
That is Far Away Angel from Pete Donnelly's solo record, When You Come Home, on the RT20 podcast. I'm here with Pete, and I actually printed out the thing, which I had to print out the thing that I fucking wrote to remember.
I just have to say, Steve, I realized something.
Yeah.
You did just play 3 ballads off of my record.
Yeah, what is that?
You love ballads. I had no idea.
I don't know, but it's not. I'm not like a huge ballad, but like when you write ballads, we're gonna get to a whole other section coming up when we talk about the figs. Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
I know, but there's some rockers on that record.
There are some rockers. Yes, you know, at the beginning of the podcast, I'll play a rock song, and then I'll lead into this. That's what I'll do. That's the good thing about editing this together. So a 5 week residency.
6
week.
Yep.
6 weeks.
I know,
1,
crazy.
2, 3. Oh, that is 6 weeks.
Yeah, there's 5 weeks in February this year.
That's right. I forgot. At Milk Boy, Philadelphia. It's going to start on January 25th. Where's Milk Boy? I can't.
It's a brand new venue.
Brand new place?
It's at 12th and Chestnut, downtown Philly.
So you're kind of, this be like the first residency that they've done? Are you like sort of starting the place for them?
They do a jazz residency.
Oh, okay.
But that's a different thing. They play down and sort of entertain the people drinking and so forth, versus I'm going to be playing upstairs in the live room.
Right.
So it's a little bit daunting, you know, to get people to come back week after week.
Right. And is it daunting to like change it up so if people come back week after week, you're not playing the same exact set?
Yeah, well, I did a residency earlier this year, being still 2011 right now.
Right.
And what I do is I invite different people every week, and so that I'm hosting people, and that way I can change it up with their material, as well as they're filling up time, so I don't have to play all night and recycle my material in order to stay up. I mean, I will always be working on new material for each show, just so that, there's some variation.
Right.
But this residency, I really took it to a new level with the hosting people. You know, I tried to make it so that I'm essentially emceeing, where like I'll start the night playing a couple songs. I'll bring up a local band, someone from Philly, probably someone that I've worked with, so that I'll in some cases play with them.
Right.
And then, do a short set, 25, 30 minutes or something, and then they'll leave the stage. I'll play a short set with my band again, and then I'll bring up a, quote, national act, someone like Terry Adams or Tommy Stinson, and then I'll, basically my band will host them, for a short set, and then we'll close the show with something, and whoever wants to stay up will stay up.
Right.
So it's like two and a half hours of music, not three sets from bands.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a lot of, it's a lot going on.
Yeah. But something a little bit different than your sort of ordinary, 3-band bill.
Right. So that runs the January 25th through February 29th. That damn 5th week in February.
Imagine if that was your birthday.
That would be weird. That'd be very bizarre. Now, speaking of Terry Adams, NRBQ, I mean, since I've known you're a big NRBQ fan.
Yeah.
So how did you end up being in Terry's band, which became NRBQ? Take me back to how that connection happened.
Well, there's a couple ways to say it. One is just by being the right guy. I don't know. Cosmos, man. It's all in the cosmos. No, I mean, the Figs have been trailing around NRBQ for a while. I mean, I think, Mike, of course, as always, turned me on to them when we were really young. And it was like a life-changing experience. So I was like, wow, that's the answer. They can play all kinds of music, and maintain their integrity. It doesn't sound like fusion to play like Monk in a rock band,
right.
Or something dumb. But it's really up to David Greenberger. He's really responsible. David Greenberger did some art for NRBQ, and he lives near Saratoga. He's a friend of ours. And I had a relationship with Terry. Terry knew who I was. But it was David who said, if you want a bass player, Terry, you should call Pete. I think you really should. So he did. He just called me. We talked. He said, well, hey, come on over. And I came over, and then within 2 days was the first show. And I show up in Albany, and they're like, oh, we're taping for NPR. I'm like, are you kidding me? What? And then who walks in the door? John Sebastian. And it's like, oh, we're going to be doing some Love and Spoonful songs. You up for that? And I'm like, okay, we just rehearsed literally 100+ songs in 2 days. And, I mean, it felt like that. Maybe it wasn't really that many, but it was just song after song after song for 6-7 hours a day. So trying to remember that, and the thing is, you play with Terry, you don't know what you're playing.
Yeah.
And we're taping, and, in my opinion, it was like, one of the worst moments of my life.
Have you listened back to the tape
Yeah,
of it?
well, actually, we never broadcast that show.
Oh.
We went back and did it again
Okay.
when the band was a little bit, more warmed up.
Right.
I mean, it was pretty good. But, when you're dealing with Terry, the level of music that guy has made, it's so high that we were okay to let that one lie.
Right.
But, so, I mean, there were no auditions for that band. It was literally a conversation.
Wow.
And he just showed up.
Now, were the rest of the band set? Had Terry already picked everybody else?
Yeah. I mean, Terry and Scott, the guitar player, had spent a couple months getting together, like going over stuff. I mean, Scott is really the main key member, filling up most of the vocals, and he's just a incredibly knowledgeable guy when it comes to all music. But NRBQ for him is like, it's like the Beatles and NRBQ,
Right.
And so those guys really had it going already, and then they found Conrad because Conrad's band opened for NRBQ, I don't know, 12 years ago, and Tommy said, hey man, when I can't play anymore, call that guy, because he plays like me. And so Terry called somebody and said, hey, there's a band that opened for us. I remember their name. Banana Blender Surprise was the name of the band. And he said, can you find who that drummer is and get me a phone number? And they figured it out. So I showed up, and Conrad and Scott were already there.
Wow.
And it was like, oh.
And when you found out, did you say to Conrad, that's the worst band name I've ever heard? and if you were in a band with him, I would say that every day. You were in the worst band name ever.
Hey, I'm in the Figs. I can't say that.
I'm sorry, but that's a horrible name.
Yeah, well,
I mean, at least it was memorable enough to get a gig 12 years later.
I'm sorry, Conrad.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, he's a fantastic drummer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a horrible band.
Yeah.
That's really bad. So it starts as Terry Adams Rock and Roll Quartet.
Right.
Was it just all NRBQ stuff at first? Or
No.
how did it evolve to bringing in songs that you guys had written? How did that happen?
Basically, Terry sort of put it like this. He said, I'm a writer. These are my songs. I want to do songs I've written or cover songs that appeal to me. And some of them are NRBQ. A lot of it was his new record at the time, Holy Tweet. And, just tons of information. The guy has so many songs.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we were playing NRBQ stuff, but only stuff that he wrote.
Right.
He was sort of treating it like, Terry Adams Rock and Roll Quartet.
Right.
But you could tell he wasn't really into the idea of it being Terry Adams. He's comfortable being in a band. As much of a leader as he is, I think he really likes the band idea.
Right.
Instantly, he's like, "Oh, you have songs? I want to hear them." "Oh, let's do this song. Do you got songs? Do you have songs to bring?" And I regret that. As busy as I am, I don't have more stuff that I've brought.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I'm worthy or anything, but I just I want, that's something I hope to more. But, and the thing is with Terry, it's kind of intimidating because he just walks in the room and he'll just start playing.
Right.
It's not like, "Hey Terry, I got some songs. Can we sit down and listen to them? I mean, if I said that, I know he would be like, "Yeah," but it's just like. He just starts playing and you follow.
Yeah.
Because he's a leader,
Right.
But I had showed Scott and Conrad a song during sound check, and it was Satisfied. I was like, "Hey, I think this song, And all of a sudden, Terry runs up to the stage. He's like, "What's that?" He's like, "Let's do that." And so I was like, "Okay, cool." And then, as we got in the studio, he's like, "Hey, Pete, how are you writing lyrics?" I was like, "I'm pretty good. Give me something, and I'll try my best." So he had the song "Let Go," and he had the first verse, and I took a car ride and came back with the rest of it written, and he was like, "Wow, you nailed what I wanted, so let's do it," And then on "Keep This Love Going," it was like they're like, "Hey, we tried a couple things for a bridge. What do you got?" I was like, "Oh," and I just sang something, and they're like, "That's good, let's do that." And so we just sat down and wrote some lyrics, and bang, like, "Hey, I'm a co-writer with these guys. Amazing,"
I remember you posting a thing about it coming out as an NRBQ record, and I was like,
wow,
Pete is in the band that he loves now.
I know. What the hell?
Did that, and I want to ask you this even before this podcast, but when the name changed, did that make you feel like more pressure?
Of course.
Like playing, and because now it's it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I felt a lot. I mean, I'm such a fan of the band that I am more skeptical than anybody is of me. Who am I to be in this band? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who the hell are you, Pete?
Yeah.
To think you can play in that band? It's like Joey is my hero. You know. But I've come to really love Terry. Getting close to him and getting to know him and hearing his story and him saying, "This is my life's work. I never fired anybody." I'm not going to get into what happened because I don't know.
Right.
No matter what I've read, I don't know what happened.
Right.
Nobody knows unless you were there.
Right.
So for anybody to even really talk about it is just stupid. It just is,
Right.
But Terry said, "It's my life's work. I don't want to give it up. What am I supposed to do? NRBQ is a concept." He's like, "I started it with my brother and Steve Ferguson in 1968. I don't want to stop. Are you guys in?" It's like, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry, man. I can't.
so
I can't handle that.
I imagine what Johnny felt when Big Al left.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, "Oh God, no one's as good as Big Al." But it's like, I was one of the few people who was like, you know what? I think they're better right now because it looked like it was falling apart at the end, and I felt like they weren't learning new material or something. I'm only saying from the few shows I saw, but
Right.
when I saw him with Johnny, it was like, whoa, it looks like they went and rehearsed a bunch of material that I'd never seen him play. So all of a sudden I'm seeing all this material, and that was great. It was exciting. So with every new phase comes plenty of criticism, but it's a new phase,
Right.
Hopefully something great is happening, and I know that great stuff is happening. I listen to the record and I'm impressed. I play with these guys and I'm blown away, and we've done great things.
Yeah.
We go out to San Francisco and Bonnie Raitt shows up, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Hey Bonnie, what's up?"
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's play the two songs that you sing on this record. The one that maybe someday we'll hear the original version of.
Yeah.
So from the NRBQ record from 2011, since this podcast will air in 2012, I should just say that. Keep This Love Going. This is I'm Satisfied on the RT20 podcast.
As inspiration, I walk across a broken street. There's a table, it's under light. I'm burning up with anticipation, and unbeknownst to everyone, to get me some. Every other thing is work to me. Still, it's so often I'm satisfied. Satisfied. Unbeknownst to everyone, I've been trying to get me some. Every other thing is work to me. Still, it's so often I'm satisfied. 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 I'm satisfied. Happiness and peace of mind await me. The reason I keep holding on escapes me. You see me in a circle here, directionless. I'm headed to the station, to the train I'll never catch. I know I'd be better. It's the view that's got me checked. I see things I don't wanna let go. I've heard some words make their comments when we carry on. Is it always so obvious to them? Why can't I believe in the things I already know? No, if I could let go. I'm terrified, but I'm talking on and on. There's no changes in the weather, but I feel like walking on. I just have to take it. The world can't hold me back. No, when I'm letting go. Happiness and peace of mind await me. The reason I keep holding on escapes me. And I know I'll be better with the things I already know. Oh, if I could only let it go.
That is NRBQ featuring Pete Donnelly on lead vocals on Let Go from the album Keep This Love Going on the RT20 podcast. I'm here with Pete Donnelly. We're talking about the multitude of projects that he has currently in the works and currently juggling. And that seems like a good place to take a break on the RT20 podcast. We'll be back next week with part 2 of our podcast with Pete Donnelly. Thanks for listening.